We want to acknowledge them because we don't want to, build a defensive wall between the two of us or within the group. You see that happen. That's why, like, either for a brainstorming session or a meeting, we want to make sure to keep things smoothly flowing. We want to really listen to people. I think sometimes we don't do that enough. We think we know what they're saying, but we aren't totally sure. So, use those heavy listening skills and actively listen, repeat back to people. Be open yourself. Take a few seconds before you respond. I mean, how many of us, people, I find myself doing it, I have to be very aware of that. People will throw an idea and I'm like, oh yeah. So many times, I mean, seriously, everybody does that. You have that happen to you a lot. Or you feel like people aren't hearing your ideas. And so we talk about thinking of ways to stimulate creativity and innovation within our counties or communities. We really have to think, how do we make that happen? How do we make these ideas flow? You can use Facebook. You can create portals. People put their ideas up there. Other people add to them or change them and continue to build on them and tweak them. We want that diversity of thought and the diversity of experience, but we also, in age and everything else that diversity encompasses, but we also want to make sure we have some open minds and open ways to get these ideas out, because so often the first reaction is a no. Or it's like, oh, we tried that 10 years ago, it didn't work then, it's not going to work now. You always hear sort of these fire hosing types of things. So as leaders, we really need to be able to deal with that. And not all ideas may fly. They may not fly right now. Maybe they're better in a few years. But maybe it's just that weird idea that's the solution. Maybe it has to be tweaked a little bit. So we've got to find ways to get these ideas out in the open, massage them a little bit, and implement them. So how many of you are going to implement the idea? How many of you are thinking, I'm going to go and I'm going to create Yelp today? Well, if you do, that's the innovative piece. Then it's used. It gets into that used piece, where it's not just an idea anymore, but it turns into an idea. So talk about some of those obstacles that arise. What catalysts could you put in place? What are some things you could do to kind of help make that creativity flow and not get an instant no?
Way to sell the idea.
Can you expand on that?
In other words, let's say you're trying to put in a new bridge and you may be coming at it from a cost approach rather than from a benefit approach. You just got to, even if you get shot down, you got to have another approach ready to back it up.
Excellent. Find various ways to sell your idea. You can appeal to people in different ways. Everybody's different. We learned that even just, people looked at a lion differently, for example. So use numbers, use testimonials, use pictures, images. Get at people how they learn best and how they understand information. Very good. Use that information you learned about personality and to help you. And think that it's not you listening. It's somebody different than you. Right? So it's not about how you learn necessarily or how you understand, but it's about them as well. Great.
And besides bringing in like experts or other people or something like that, which falls into that, wouldn't it maybe be a good idea to try to learn or understand better the perspective that some of these other people have that maybe are opposing it, and to maybe understand why they might be?
Absolutely. Get at the why. It's very good. Get at the reason. What really is the issue here? It takes a lot of conversation and to do that and a lot of understanding. Very good.
I want to follow up on that idea. People often say, you said it too, oh, we tried that 10 years ago. And then I would say, okay, well, what were some of the roadblocks 10 years ago? Do those same roadblocks exist? Really keep drawing out on that and trying to find out, well, maybe what other opportunities exist today that weren't there 10 years ago. And I guess I encounter some negativity on ideas that they'll say, oh, that was tried 10 years ago. But let's focus on where we're at today and how we can take those roadblocks and turn them into access blocks.
Yeah, take the roadblocks and turn them into building blocks. That's fantastic. That's great. Because things change every day, don't they? We're not where we were 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even last year. I mean, it's constantly changing. So we really do need to find ways to create those building blocks. And it may look a little differently depending on the culture of our office or of our county or our community. So we really have to figure out what is best for us. How do we make this work? How do we sell these ideas? How do we make change happen? What are some pieces that we can put together as leaders to do this? And that kind of gets at the strategies of dealing with change. But You know, we have to realize that change will continue to happen, just like we talked about. Now, this is a different side of Fred. I had to work really hard to get this picture. I actually gave a presentation at the National Food Manufacturers Conference on leading innovation in small businesses. And it's called Running with the Big Dogs. And I just wanted to show people a little dog can be just as, you know, just as ferocious, that's right. And I feel the same way about many of our communities. We can be just as ferocious as a big community. We did, in fact, get Barney after we got Fred. And they are half brothers. They are from a farm family in Plymouth, Nebraska. Lovely dogs. Those people were great breeders. But I will tell you, Fred is extremely smart. He got injured. I don't know. He fell off my lap a few weeks ago and then been looking around. I took him to the vet last week. And this is how, you know, change continues to evolve, right? Well, they sleep in the kitchen at night and they have a child baby there. Well, I don't know how it happened, but it's Saturday night, 4 in the morning, I hear the dogs coming down, you know, the hall. I'm like, did, you know, my daughter let them out? Did Jim, my husband, let them out? What just happened here? I don't know how these dogs are getting out. So I didn't know. Anyway, they get into bed, they sleep with me, of course. So it's their favorite place. I can't help it. But anyway, so the next morning, I'm curious, but Fred had gotten sick, really sick. I've never seen him so sick. I'm like, oh man, he must have been desperate or something. Turns out Fred can now open a child gate. As long as it's not locked. I know, isn't that impressive? I know. I was so excited to tell you that today, because I'm like, this is how, you know, Fred, he's been in there for like 5 years and it's never moved, but he was desperate. Again, that desperation can breed all kinds of change and innovation because we have to make it happen. So, you know, that was really interesting. He must have really felt that he had to get in there. Never before had he tried to move that gate. But he was so desperate in that moment that he's like, you know what, this gate's going to move. And from now on, now I can't even keep him in there unless I like it. So it's amazing what can happen when we do feel like we're in a bad spot. And I really encourage you to think about that as you go through the rest of the session. Now, for Fred and Barney, things continue to change. He's kind of the late bloomer in the motherhood department. We had a daughter, Raquel, then we had a son, Jagger. Fred's had to change a lot. I mean, he's had to change a lot.